Welcome to the next training tutorial on PitchPerfector. In this video, we're going to go over some of the other optional settings. So we talked about the menu settings previously, and now we're going to look at some of the other features. Play pattern. This plays whatever pattern you're currently working with, a single note, a short scale, and the note duration. What the note duration does is tell the program how long you want to play each of the notes. And for example, when you're working with a short scale, let's switch it just so you can hear what that sounds like. To change it to a half a second. So the longer the scale or pattern that you're working with, more likely the shorter you're going to want the duration to be. For example, if you had the 2 seconds per note, and you're working with a chromatic scale or a whole tone scale for an octave, you're going to be waiting a very long time for it to finish. And when you're working with a single note, working with anywhere from a half a second to 2 seconds is often helpful, so you hear the pitch a little bit longer. Next, we have the record button. We're going to go to C4 and click the record button and sing. When you're completed singing, hit the record button again. You can also use keyboard shortcuts in this case, such as just hitting the space bar. Now next, as we move down, you'll see an erase button, which will erase the current screen, wipe all of this out, and when this item is checked for sound, it plays the note again. If you don't want to hear that note again, and you don't care about that particular pitch for whatever you're doing, to hear it again every time you click erase, you can just uncheck this. So when you hit erase, there's no sound. When you have the sound turned on and you click erase, you get that reminder. Next is a loop. And what this does is when you're going through recording, it will actually loop through up to 4 times and come back each time in a different color. And this will help lead over to looking at the colors we have to work with for the graphing: black, red, green, and blue. And so what happens with the loop is the first time through it records in black, the second time in red, the third time in green, and the fourth time in blue. So in particular, this feature was added at the request of someone who is playing a melodic instrument, a ney to be specific, and is also used by folks that are working to improve their string skills, not necessarily for vocalists, though it can be used for vocalists. That's how it got added. And when you have feature requests, please send them to us, because we listen, and most every new feature you see out here was added because somebody requested it. We'll just demonstrate this very quickly. There are some semi-grayed out sections up here. The first one over here on the right is smooth. And basically what that does is as you notice, these different points of pitch are bouncing around quite a bit because they're doing a lot of fast calculations of where your pitch is. And some folks would like to see that smoothed out so that it's not so jagged. And there are some reasons for that we could get into at another time, but I'll just show you that this is how this works. We're going to turn this on smooth. We're going to go back to the black color and sing again. And so what you notice is just that the graph is kind of smoothed out. And this is a personal preference, or perhaps a preference of your teacher. The next thing that we have here are lines. You can have lines turned on or turned off. By default, they're turned on. I usually keep lines. Some people would like to get rid of the lines and just have dots that show up. Next are the dot sizes. You could have a dot size very small of 1 and up to a fairly large of 3, and 2 is the default. Lastly, we have a new feature requested by a user, which was the grid notes checkbox. And what that does is when that's turned on, you can play any of these notes over here. So in a sense, we have you have the keyboard that you're familiar with in this view up here at the top. And in a sense, this keyboard is laid out vertically here on the side. And so that you can play those when you're working, that is sometimes a useful feature to have. So that concludes the basic overview of the features in the program. Oh, a couple of quick other ones here. This box here that shows C4, this is the current note that you are singing. You'll also notice that down here in this staff notation, you'll have the current pitch that you're singing. What we saw was that this moved and this note moved, so you can get an idea where your current pitch is. Now we'll talk briefly about these vertical lines. At any time, the software in the program is calculating the pitch that's being presented. Usually that pitch is going to be what you're singing. But if your voice drops off and becomes soft at a point, the program is still calculating the pitch and can calculate the pitch of the background noise within the room. And when that happens, the background noise may be very low, in which case you would have vertical lines dropping way off the chart. Or if the background pitch was very high, you would have lines going vertically off the top. And so that's what those are. There is a way that we can get rid of those lines just to declutter it a little bit, but you can effectively ignore those. Okay, and that concludes this overview of PitchPerfector.